Welcome to today's episode of The Think Tank. I'm your host, Vincent Fink, and today's topic is UFOs and the disclosure that we have been inching towards. It seems every day now we're having another revelation about a new whistleblower or a new piece of evidence showing that UFOs exist, that extraterrestrial life exists. We're getting all these first-hand accounts, all these, it's amazing, ex-military people. So it's a weird thing because I've been following Dr. Stephen Greer's UFO research for a long time, many years, and he has been coming out with a lot of stuff, documentaries with much of the same, whistleblowers, ex-military, talking about what they've seen and heard of a lot of the times, but some of them are even, I've heard there's been a few first-hand accounts. Well, it's just strange because earlier this week we had already had the recent whistleblower. He was, let's see here. Oh, great. We got an ad running here.
Grusch sat down with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who is reporting for News Nation on the bombshell whistleblower complaint filed with Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. According to the complaint, in July 2021, Mr. Grusch confidentially provided UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena related classified information, to the Department of Defense Inspector General. At that time, Mr. Grusch communicated classified information about the improper withholding and or concealment of classified material from the U.S. Congress by certain IC elements. News Nation has confirmed Grusch's credentials, but he says he can't show us the proof of the alien craft for national security reasons. In a somewhat frightening revelation, Grusch claims the non-human species may not be friendly.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Grusch says he has to be careful about providing detail. He shared this letter with us from the Department of Defense, giving him permission to do the interview with News Nation. It says the interview questions are approved for public release. However, this approval does not include any photograph, picture, exhibit, caption, or other supplemental material.
All right, so that's pretty crazy, though. I don't know why he would try to insinuate that they would be aggressive, because obviously if they could have the technology to get here, that would be an easy win for them, right? For some species of advanced technology, that's just if they're aggressive, I think we would have known very clearly by now.
To level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours, and it is so destabilizing.
The secrecy is the main reason Grusch says he is coming forward. He's concerned Congress is being kept in the dark, and it's a matter of national security.
This is not a question I had on my bingo card.
So it certainly is. He's got that right. There's definitely always going to be little bits of truth, I think you'll find, in no matter what comes out in the news, right? There's some nugget, and they can twist it how they want, though. So if they want to say that they're aggressive and create a scare, I guess that's totally within their purview and their agenda for the news, right? To keep us scared and keep us watching.
Preliminary stages
of getting those hearings together. And regardless of whether you believe David Grusch, this really is an emerging area. You know, Congress has been looking to this into the past, and clearly, based on what we've seen today, they're taking this seriously. They want to look into it.
So the Department of Defense gave David Grusch permission to talk about this? Did they know what he was going to say?
They did, and we have that letter, which is interesting. When you're at the level he was at and you have that kind of classified information, he was concerned, obviously, breaking the law and come out and talk about things. So he told them what he intended to talk about, and they essentially gave him permission in that letter, as you heard, only saying not to share specific photos or any sort of visual aids. But they also said in that letter, we're also not saying that what you're saying is true either.
Right. It was,
which is important.
Right. And yet still I keep coming back to the point.
I could have swore I saw something. Somebody was looking at their site, so I was checking as well, but I could have swore I saw fucking Cuomo on this channel, and if what the fuck ever happened to Cuomo anyway? Well, anyways, pretty nuts. You know, he goes on. I think he's definitely touching on some real stuff there, but we'll get into maybe some of the propaganda or false alarms and whatnot that might be associated with that. So Dr. Stephen Greer just had a press hearing, and I will pull that up too and have it to where you can see, because I mean, there's not a whole lot to see actually, other than 3 hours of people giving very long, detailed stories about their lives and how they've been affected and by their sightings. And see here, like a boomerang crash retrieval in Lawton, Oklahoma, in 2003. That's at 1520-ish. And he goes through quite a bit of these. They have these little visualizations to go along with the stories, and you know, the.
And to another, say this is one point, this is another. You're not going through a straight line. You're folding space-time. That's how you're doing. But this object was retrieved because it became disabled. Some of these retrieval operations are not extraterrestrial, but they would like sometimes the public to think maybe it was, because the bigger secret, I'll tell you right now, is not the extraterrestrial issue. It's these technologies, which an unsupervised and frankly illegal operation have, which is a threat to the national security, period. This we will prove. And this is a bigger threat, the existence of these in the hands of unsupervised operations that have escaped the oversight of the President of the Office of the President and the Congress since 1956 to 1960. Hence Eisenhower's speech, beware the military-industrial complex. This is actually what he was talking about. I know people who have since passed away, like our witness, Stephen Lubkin, who was at the White House with Eisenhower, who said point blank, the president lost control of these projects and that he was very upset and angry about it, but these projects became so compartmentalized that he no longer could control them.
His credible accounts, you know, he, much like the guy that just came out on the news, you know, these are ex-military people, some of them with a very high clearance, and it's strange because they all seem to corroborate similar stories about underground command and control centers, where you could see people kind of all just in their own little desk areas working on different parts, I guess, of the crash retrieval and reverse engineering. ARV seen by witness TB at underground facility. Those are some interesting images that were sketched based on witness testimony. And so the idea is that ever since basically, like, I believe the 40s, we've already been like mastered anti-gravity like since the 60s or sometime. And it seems that, yeah, the whole Roswell thing, all that seems like that was probably a real deal. But he covers a lot. And there's 3 hours here. You get a lot of witness testimony. It's a very intriguing listen. And I would strongly encourage those who have 3 hours, if you're working on something, to check that out, because that's some information that not a lot of people are exposed to. And the media didn't seem to pick it up very much. I didn't see anything about it in the mainstream news. This was a National Press Club event, so I mean, he was opening this up to the press, and there certainly was a lot of press, but it was all, of course, independent media, and there was nothing to be seen that I could tell of any mainstream news that were wanting to cover this. But they're adding this to Congressional Archive. You know, they've I believe, well, they've sent it to Congress. You know, they've sent them the information, so I guess it's up to them if they want to add it to their archives, which I'm sure they don't feel like doing. Maybe a little Marco Rubio, man, can come through for us, because he seems to be like the only politician that I know of who's actually been pursuing the alien question, the UFO question. So yeah, that's the crazy thing, though, that I feel like he's been talking about a lot of stuff that makes sense. It works with, I guess, the whole worldview, if you understand what's going on in the world, right? With the globalists and the agenda, right? And how fear is being used as a weapon against the people to gain compliance. So it seems that the UFO scare is the next move, or at least one of the next moves. You know, it seems like also just hitting us with a barrage of different things all at once, one after the other, it kind of keeps us disoriented, right? And that's obviously a tactic as well that's being used. So so many things happening all at once that this recent whistleblower was not covered by mainstream news. Only this this one, what was it again? News Nation. Yeah. So News Nation, whatever. I want to kind of look a little bit into who they are, but never heard of them, and that's strange. But Dailymail, even UK, you know, they seem to even have better news about what's going on in America than American news does, because I can even pull up here this Dailymail article that came up, actually two of them. This first one, exclusive: crashed UFO recovered by the U.S. military, distorted space and time, leaving one investigator nauseous and disoriented when he went in and discovered it was much larger inside than out. Attorney for whistleblowers reveals. That's quite a headline. And this article is bonkers. Like, I need to open this up better to where I can see it. Yeah, here we go. Oh yeah, this is nuts. So, a crashed UFO recovered by the U.S. military distorted space-time and was bigger on the inside, claims a top attorney involved in bringing UFO whistleblowers to Congress. Danielle Sheehan says he was told the mind-boggling tale by a whistleblower who allegedly took part in an illegally undisclosed program retrieving crashed non-human spacecraft, and who has now briefed Senate Intelligence Committee staff. The lawyer's story is the latest in a series of stunning claims this week of UFOs in the government's hands, which began on Monday with an open camera interview of former senior Air Force intelligence officer David Grusch, alleging that the U.S. government possesses multiple crashed non-human craft. And that's what we were just talking about earlier. The Department of Defense says it has not discovered any verifiable information to support any of the claims, of course. But Sheehan has been helping bring whistleblowers like Grusch to Congress in an attempt to expose what he believes is a government cover-up of encounters with extraterrestrials. So this is where it gets bonkers. The attorney told Dailymail.com that one alleged recovery recounted to him by a supposed crash retrieval program insider involved a 30-foot saucer partially embedded in the earth with some fantastical properties. They tried to hook a bulldozer to it to pull it out, and it pulled out a shape like a pie slice, almost like it was part of the way it was constructed, Sheehan said. When it came loose a couple of feet, they stopped immediately. They didn't want to destroy the integrity of the machine. They had a guy go into it. He got in there, and it was as big as a football stadium. It was freaking him out, so it started to make him feel nauseous. He was so disoriented because it was so gigantic inside. It was the size of a football stadium, while the outside was only 30 feet in diameter. Sheehan said that space was not the only warped dimension around the spacecraft. He staggered back out after being in there for a couple minutes, and outside it was 4 hours later, he said. There was all kinds of time distortions and space distortion. Physicists have theorized that propulsion of an advanced craft could theoretically involve warping space-time around it to negate the effects of gravity. But Sheehan declined to give further details, including a location and date of the incident, and said he was unable to provide evidence for the claims. The lack of details, documents, and photos are leading skeptics to dismiss as tall tales the story of the off-world UFOs stored by secret government programs. There are military officials, though, who have voiced support for Grusch since he came forward publicly, and now that he's placed himself at considerable risk if he is lying, and as all his claims have been submitted to the DoD and intelligence community inspector generals on penalty of perjury. Yeah, man, it's definitely a big deal if you're lying about this kind of stuff. His ass is on the line, and there are others who back him up. Again, seems like there's a long thread here of like what's happening here, and all the whistleblowers that Dr. Stephen Greer has been interviewing for years and been putting out documentaries of. Like one of his most recent one was called SIRIUS. You can check that out on his YouTube page as well. He puts out pretty much most, if not all of his stuff for free, including that press hearing today that I tuned into. So again, though, going back to this article, though, I mean, this article actually goes on for quite a while, and it lists some other things that I thought was interesting. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see here. Like, for instance, Michael Schellenberger, author and founder of the news site Public, reported on Wednesday several unidentified intelligence sources who claimed that they had seen credible and verifiable evidence that the government or military contractors have at least 12 alien spacecraft. Every 5 years, we get one or two recovered for one reason or another from either a landing or that we catch or they just crash, one alleged whistleblower told the publication. I know of at least 12 to 15 craft. See, that part, I'm like, really, though? I don't know if I believe that they could travel this far here and then just crash or just power out. I mean, maybe the power out could happen on occasion, but I don't think they're that clumsy. I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, maybe they took a pit stop or something else, or maybe they got shot down. You know, that's much more plausible. Let's see here. A defense contractor told Public there are at least 4 morphologies, different structures. 6 were in good shape, 6 were not in good shape. There were cases where the craft landed and the occupants left the craft unoccupied. There have been high-level people, including generals, who have placed their hands on the craft, and I would have no reason to disbelieve them. Yeah, there's like a wacky description here. Something like a helicopter with the front bubble of a Huey helicopter with the plastic windows, or more like a deep submarine with thick piece of glass, bubble shaped. Where the tail rudder should have been, it was black, egg-shaped pancake, and instead of landing gear, it had upside-down ram horns that went from the top to the bottom and rested to the ends of the horns. The source told Public. Okay, now that guy, I think he was just on acid. I don't know what that guy was smoking. That description sounds like an acid trip, not a UFO sighting. Let's see here. This is a quote from first here. A retired Army colonel who worked with Grusch on the government's UFO task force, agreeing with his claims. His assertion concerning the existence of terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origins is fundamentally correct, Colonel Carl Nell told The Brief. I think that actually might be somewhat true. I don't know if necessarily he says terrestrial arms race. I mean, I guess you'd have to be a little more specific on what that means. If perhaps, us trying to attain that next level of technology as a species, but not us against aliens, right? It's humans against humans. It's different nations fighting to see who can be dominant in this realm. Not that we have any chance of fighting off aliens. Yeah, of course, he's being harassed and threatened. A source briefed on Grusch's case told Dailymail.com that he was subjected to harassment, including placing air tags in his wife's car to monitor its movements and flying drones over his home. There was at one time threats on his life. They tried to attack his security clearance. He learned it was a bell-like craft that supposedly crashed in northern Italy in 1933. It was kept by Mussolini's government until 1944, when it was recovered by agents of the Office of Strategic Services, a historic U.S. intelligence agency. Ironically, it predates anything the public has heard about for decades, such as Roswell, etc. So yeah, that kind of correlates with what I was thinking earlier, that ever since the 40s, we were already interacting, finding these craft, recovering them and trying to reverse engineer them. It's amazing to think that long ago, that we had already figured things out. Because this kind of this is also like that 0 point energy. That's something that Dr. Stephen Greer talks about too. Is that this this energy source and the way that of this kind of bending of gravity or reversing of gravity that's being done here kind of makes things able to kind of just move instantly and hover and all this stuff. That it's also some kind of like naturally infinitely abundant kind of energy source, like Tesla kind of style stuff here, using the system here, right? Like the energy that's available on Earth, and just utilizing that instead of burning and combustion and things like that are so destructive. So apparently that has been figured out for, 80 years, and or somewhere around there. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff, man. Pretty crazy. And then there was even another Dailymail. I'll just end with this one real quick because I am tired. It is way too late. But also Dailymail. Exclusive. Marine vet breaks 14-year silence to make astonishing claim that his 6-man unit saw a hovering octagonal UFO being loaded with weapons by unmarked U.S. forces who threatened them at gunpoint while serving in Indonesia in 2009. Yeah. That's pretty nuts. So, I mean, what's up with all this stuff coming out? Like, all this UFO, it's just insane. It's like overload. It's kind of like, it's too much. It's kind of like, it does kind of almost feel like it's fake news at some point, because it's like, all this now, why is it all happening now? I'm happy that it's happening now. I know that, again, Dr. Stephen Greer has been doing this for years and has been briefing presidents like Bill Clinton, and been trying to get this out for a long time. So him doing his press club meeting today was pretty normal for him. It's weird, though, to me that it's like within a week of this whistleblower from last week, and then these other articles that I'm reading, and more are just coming out. It's actually getting kind of hard to keep track of all of the different UFO sightings and whistleblowers and testimonies that have been coming out lately, that all seem to be from credible ex-military and the alike. So what's going on, right? What's the big picture here? Is it all just a deep state fake? Deep state? Man, I'm hungry. Is it all a deep state fake, or is there some truth to it? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's a little bit of truth to everything. I think I believe the story about the retrievals and that they've found extraterrestrial life inside some of these vehicles, perhaps. I believe it's possible, at least. From everything I've heard that through the years, that it seems to kind of keep being reconfirmed by all these different testimonies, unless it's all a psyop, unless all of these ex-military guys are just deep state plants. I'm starting to find that harder and harder to believe as each one comes out, but who knows? Some of these new ones do seem kind of inauthentic. I will say, like the News Nation interview there, that I'm not entirely sure I believe that guy. I think, again, things he said were true, but I also think some of the things he said may not be true. And he might be part of what I think is going to happen here is what... so the disclosure is coming because it can't be hidden anymore because of people like Dr. Stephen Greer and all of these whistleblowers. I suppose they have decided to play into this by putting out their own disinformation agents who whistleblow, and they'll be the ones, of course, who go out on the news that everyone will see if anybody even picks up the story. And it'll be the guy on News Nation who's peddling this idea of fear. Like, oh yeah, they're malevolent, I think was the word he said. And there was, yeah. Again, I don't think that's something we have to worry about because they could have blasted us away long ago if that's what they wanted to do. And they've had plenty of opportunities. They've had plenty of reasons to, with all of the craft of theirs that we have shot down and destroyed and killed some of their... so I think they would have proven that by now. We're good on that. What we have to be worried about is those who are running the programs that have been kept secret for so long. They're the ones who seem to be orchestrating a cosmic false flag, as Dr. Stephen Greer calls it. And it all checks out. I mean, if you just kind of look at the way that things have been moving along here, I think he's right. I think that's going to be the next move. I think a cosmic false flag is certainly in order. Like Ronald Reagan said, what if you imagine an alien threat coming to Earth, that might be the one thing to unify us all, right? And wouldn't that be amazing? Well, that's true. And that's probably what would have happened if the government would have let us know about this when it happened so long ago. Or, if we could have already been enjoying the benefits of this technology for sure. But this is a problem because they've been hiding it for so long, and they've been using it for military means. And now it seems, because there's so much evil embedded in the system, that everything's been reversed backwards. As you know, we in America are literally in upside down land, where everything that meant one thing before, it is now just kind of reversed. It's kind of a dialectic chaos. It's being done on purpose, by the way, to make us not unable to even make sense to each other, right? When we can no longer figure out what pronouns to use, right? And we can't. It's nuts. And another bit of just mucking the water is to create a fear, because of course fear works, right? Fear is the best motivation. In fact, without any fear, there's hardly any need for a government. So they certainly have to keep us in fear of something. And what greater threat than the alien invasion, right? I mean, that is everyone's worst nightmare, to be taken over by a hostile alien species, right? So they've definitely played that up in Hollywood, and so they've definitely pre-programmed that into our minds with just all the science fiction and culture, right? It's being set up for this, and they already have the craft recreated, so it'll be very easy for the U.S. government or whoever to stage an event, right? To stage a cosmic false flag where the aliens appear to be attacking us, and probably will attack us, and there's probably going to be some casualties, and it's going to be a very terror striking event, and it'll force everybody into compliance once again, unless we learn from our mistakes and we start standing up for our freedom. And remember that that's the only reason why America ever was the breadbasket of the world, or whatever you want to call it, the symbol of freedom, and the top, the best American made at one point, right? That used to be a thing. When we used to be on top, right? That's God, miss those days. But we could definitely take our reins back, and we certainly, either way, regardless of what country you're in, we got to figure this out, and we got to come together as a species, as a humankind, right? And a unified species in a way, in a voluntary way, though. See, that's the only way that this works. No, non-coercion. If you have to coerce me into doing something, then it's probably not too good for me, right? Once y'all come up with this perfect, amazing system, it's going to be so great that we're all going to be begging to get in, right? Just like everyone's begging to get into America, right? So that's how you can tell where the good system is, where the good living is, right? Is where everybody's, literally floating here on boats made of trash, rafts made of trash to get here from communist nations, right? So that's how you know where you had something good. But they're coming here based on a American dream that is kind of dead right now. We can bring it back, but we definitely got to push for this. We got to push for disclosure, for them to come clean about the UFO thing, especially the reverse engineer, the technology that we know that they're capable of, because this is going to change industries. It will be disruptive, but it will also, like all changes throughout history, it will also free us up to create new things based on that technology and become more creative and just advance civilization to the next level. We'll have better things to work on. So it'll be a net positive for everybody, trust me. And when everybody has abundant energy and there's no, and it's all free and clean and wireless, non-radiation, you know, not this 5G crap. It's possible. You know, that kind of world is possible. But we got to push for it again. We got to work hard for it if we want it. So we have to stand up and demand answers, demand the truth, point to the evidence, stand behind people like Dr. Stephen Greer and help them out because they're trying to help humanity. And don't buy into the fear campaign. Don't buy into the cosmic false flag that is coming, because I guarantee you it's coming. And when it comes, it's probably going to look pretty convincing because they've reverse engineered. Also, I mean, holograms, like there's just so much technology. Who knows how or what's going to happen. But I just don't buy this idea that the aliens are hostile. If they were, they would have blown us to smithereens long ago when we set off the first couple atomic bombs, you know. Which is, of course, that's the story, is that that's when they started making their presence known, was when we started tinkering with that. Then they kind of were stepping in. They would actually stop missile launches and such, and be at sites. They were seen a lot at atomic testing sites. This was because we were drawing their attention, because apparently this kind of technology is civilization ending kind of technology, obviously, as we know. And I think they're worried about us, and I think they're trying to shepherd us to the next level, to get us to a level 1 civilization at least. And it is possible. Humans can rise up the levels of civilization, but it's all got to be through peace. So no more war, no more fighting. All right, end the war in Ukraine. End the war. I'm tired of all the bloodshed on both sides, you know? It's like, stop being warmongers. Stop giving into the propaganda. All right? Peace. Love. Unity. Mankind. Humankind. Come on, all of us together. All right? Let's get through this. All right. We're going to get into more of this kind of stuff later, but it is super late at the time of this recording, and I've got to get some rest. So y'all take it easy, and hope you don't get abducted while you're sleeping. If you do, maybe it'll make a really interesting, somewhat lucid type dream, and you'll have to question if it was real or not. Did that happen to anybody? I think that might have happened to me once. We'll talk about that later. Peace out, y'all. Woo! Some crazy stuff, man. Would you go into a spacecraft? Would you go into a UFO if one landed in your backyard and they asked you to go? No questions asked. You just like, either, hey, you want to go or you not. Or you don't know if they're taking you back. You don't know if they're enslaving you or if they're going to praise you. You don't know. Would you go? I'm going to think on that for a minute. I'll get back to you. All right, let me know now. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Also, if you want to support me as a content creator, as a artist, as a creator of culture, what art has always been throughout history, then if you think my voice has value, if you value free-thinking artists who push themselves to the limits, then please head on to patreon.com/VincentFink. You can start at the price of a cup of coffee per month and will far exceed the monetary value of your investment with art gifts. So please check it out. And thank you very much for watching today, and we'll see you in the next vid.